Alright, Pete Sprague here. I've got another video. Today what's going on is we've got this Dell Latitude E5520. It has an i3 CPU in it, Intel i3, and we are going to upgrade this to the much more desirable, powerful quad-core i7 CPU. So, first thing we want to do, let me see if I can, I'm not sure if I can enlarge this. It's just I look small on the screen that I'm looking on, but that's fine. You can see me, you can see this Latitude E5520. Okay, so what I've gone ahead and done is I have the badge labels. So on these old older Dells, somewhat aged Dells, I take and put the core i7 labels on them. I take the i3 off, I put the i7 on them, and I take off the Windows 7 badge and put the Windows 10 on it, because this now has Windows 10. And the other thing, I'm not 100% sure about the Windows 7, but I know on Windows 8, if you upgrade to Windows 10, just do the upgrade with the same hard drive. You can use the same product key, and you'll have a valid Windows 10 product key. I'm pretty sure it's Pro to Pro and Home to Home. I don't think you can go from Windows 8 Home to Windows 10 Pro. But anyway, I've seen that work, so I just want to throw that in. So what's the first thing we're going to do? Is the first thing we always do, right? Working on a laptop, we're going to take the battery out. So that's the first thing. The first thing we always do. Take the battery out, right? Number one thing. You won't have any kind of electrical discharge or any problem. So on the E5520, if you have one of these, you probably know, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4 screws holding the bottom panel. So take out the 4 screws for the bottom panel. Now this bottom panel is for accessing the hard drive and the memory. It's not for accessing the CPU. However, it has to be taken out in order to access the CPU. So there's one. I didn't finish this one. There's 2. There's 3. And there's 4. There's the 4 screws out. 4 screws are out. The panel is just going to pull out, slide forward and pull out. Just get in there with whatever you have. Usually I just use my fingernails. I'm going to set this down so I can actually get right at it. Okay, I got it. Here it comes. Okay. You'll figure that out when you see that panel. Now, what we want to get at, right, is you have this side cover with the DVD drive and this side cover. And this is the side cover that we want to take off to get at the CPU. So I like buying these and upgrading them because there's not a lot to them. They upgrade real fast and easy. Okay, so once again, we've got 4 screws to take out. We've got 1 on each end, outside end, and then we've got 2 in the middle on these tabs. Okay, so 2 in the middle of these tabs, 2 on the outside, going right into the chassis. Okay, so let's get those out. There's 1 of the outside screws. 2 of the outside screws. These all look to be 5mm. Usually the outside ones are 8mm and the inside ones are 5, but these all look to be 5mm, which is fine. Yeah, these are all the same, so I took all 4 of those out, and they're all 4 the same. So now we want to lift off this side panel. Okay, so this should just lift off. And here it comes. I'm just wiggling it a little bit. It's got the little tabs that hold it in place, so it's out, as you can see. So I'll just set that over with the battery. Keep track of your parts as they come out, okay? Now this is really fast because all we're down to now is the cooler, right? The CPU cooler, and the fan. If I can do this on the camera, okay? So I don't even think I don't even have to pull to disconnect the power for the fan. So I'm going to take out these 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're labeled 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know if you can actually see the label. I don't have the world's best camera, but they're labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to pull them out. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're also spring loaded, so that keeps the tension on them. It's very easy to keep the tension on the CPU cooler on the CPU. So 1, and it's a crisscross pattern. Taking them out, putting them in. It's all crisscrossed. 2. It's just to keep even pressure all around. 3. And these appear to be capture screws because they're popping when I reach the end. They're not coming out, they're just popping. So got all 4 loose. I'm getting this end out. So what's happening is well, the end was being held in place by the fan, but it fit out under it, okay? So when you're doing this, you can just have enough room to get in and out, okay? You have to angle it. Angle it in and out. Angle it, okay? Angle it to get in and out. I'll show you the angle again when I put it back in, okay? Now, on the cooler, we have the residue of the old heat grease there. So we're going to take that off. That's all going to come off. So let's do that now. So that comes right off with alcohol, rubbing alcohol, okay? You get it anywhere, drugstores, anywhere. So I take a cotton swab. I use a cotton swab, okay, to do this. With the cotton swab, dip the cotton swab in the alcohol, and Dell from the factory really puts this grease on really thick. Way thicker than you need because it's all over the outside edges. It's all going to waste. It's not cooling anything. It's all outside of where the CPU contacts the cooler. It's not even doing anything. But that's all right. I guess it's better safe than sorry. So they really load it up. Okay. Now all that grease is going to evaporate right off of there. Okay. Now hold on, because we're not done just yet with the cotton swab, because now also put the lid back on your alcohol, because this stuff's going to evaporate and then you won't have any alcohol. So just always keep the lid on the alcohol when you're not using it. Now the next part we're going to get into is you need a flathead screwdriver, about like so. Okay, I think you can get a good view of that. It's just magnetized flathead. In this case, it doesn't matter that it's magnetized, but the CPU is coming up. Okay. So in this case, here's our i3 CPU. You can see it covered with an excessive abundance of cooling paste, CPU paste, heat paste, whatever you want to call it, heat grease. So it's coming out. So to get one of these CPUs out from a laptop, just take your flathead screwdriver and turn that screw 1/2 of a turn. Okay, you want to go nice 1/2 of a turn, and you can see the little notch in there will turn. You watch it turn, and it'll turn a full 1/2 turn, and then once you've done that, it just lifts right up. It's loose. It wants to fall out, so it just comes right out. We'll clean this up. We'll clean this up later. So there's your i3 CPU. Now, our quad core i7's gonna be going in. Okay. Now, I want you to notice something. The this i7, okay, is going to run a lot hotter than an i3, okay, for various number of reasons. But you see that pad on there, right? That heat transfer pad there, the pad that the heat's going to transfer from. Look at the size of that pad compared to the size of the i3, okay? I'm not sure how much this camera picks up, but it's a huge difference. At least between 25 and 30% difference in size, okay? So, and weight, you can't tell from the camera, but the i7's much heavier too. So we're going to a much beefier CPU, okay? So what we're looking for is we have a corner in this socket that's it's notched out. Okay, there's one corner in this socket that's notched out. Now, sooner or later I'll get a better camera, but my point wasn't to make videos, but I've been showing people what I've been doing a lot. So there's a star. Okay, there's a mark on one corner. 3 don't have a mark and 1 has a mark. And you want to line that mark, the corner that has the mark, the notch, with the part of the CPU socket that's notched, okay? And make sure it drops in. Okay, that one's in. As fast as I could set it down, it went in. Now, don't force it, because if you force it, you have the wrong CPU, because not all i3s and i7s match up. I go online and I find a chart, because believe me, they do not all match up. And I tried to force them before without thinking about it, and I destroyed a beautiful i7 CPU. Okay, so just be aware. You got to know that they're compatible. And if it's fighting with you too much, it doesn't want to go in, it's not compatible. It's not going to go in. All right. This one, I went to the chart. I made sure I got the ones that were compatible. They lined up. I'm giving this a half notch turn. There's a half notch turn. That CPU's back in nice and tight. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we have some brand new CPU paste, and here it is here. Okay, mine come in a syringe, like a COVID-19 virus injection. Okay. So there's no particular way to do this. 100 different people tell you 100 different ways. This one's somewhat long, so I'm just going to run this along the length of it somewhat. Not going to go crazy. Okay. what I have in there is probably too much, but that's all right. Now, the way I have that put on there, you know, if you're watching this video, you may or may not have done this before, but here's my CPU grease, CPU paste, heat paste, whatever you want to call it. And that's going to spread out when the CPU cooler goes on there, okay? Some people spread that out. I find that it makes a ridiculous mess if I do that. So I'm going to let the CPU cooler spread that CPU paste out. CPU grease. Okay, I'm going to let it do all the work and spread that out. So I'm getting this back in. And there it is, it's back in. Okay. Here's the, everything's back on and in place. So I'm going to start at number 1. And it's marked number 1. I'm going to go to number 2. And it's marked number 2. I have ridiculously unsteady hands. Okay? My hands do not stay in place for screwdrivers. There's 2, here comes 3. Okay, I'm getting 3 in here. It's marked 3. Okay, before I go too tight, here comes 4. Okay. 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's our i7 CPU in place. Now, finish tightening 1. Now this should be spreading the heat glue, that heat paste, CPU glue, CPU paste, CPU grease. This should all be getting spread out now. Okay. And this is all plenty tight. And the spring's going to keep it tight too. This isn't made to go crazy tightening. So here's our side panel. Goes over the CPU. You make sure everything's in place. You can hear it snapping into place. Okay. There's no particular order for these. I'll do the outside too, and then the inside too. That's spreading the tension evenly. Outside too. You can put the thread glue on these if you so desire too. They come through originally from the factory. They have that little bit of what you call Loctite, right? And I think I'll do that. Okay. So when you're putting these in, pardon the interruption here, but yeah. I have some Loctite thread locker. Let's put the Loctite in. We'll do it just like Dell did at the factory. Okay, nice and tight. So before you go crazy with that, take this. This is the blue Loctite, just like it came out of the factory. They put a tiny little bit of glue on it, okay? Tiny little bit. This is a lot more watery than I'm used to Loctite being. Okay, that one's in with the Loctite. I know I really got to get a better camera. Plus I got my back to you guys. all the time too, right? Is this one. Let's see how that's doing. I'm making a mess of my green mat too with the Loctite spilling all over it. I got way more coming out of here than I need. Everything will clean up though. The rubber mat and everything with alcohol. So I cleaned this mat up the other day. All kinds of CPU grease came off of it. It was a mess, but it cleaned up nice. Alright, there's that. That one's lined up. So the Loctite just keeps the screws from vibrating loose. You know, there's nothing magic to it, and you don't need a lot. I got a little puddle over here, so I'm just taking from the puddle. Now, this isn't sitting on the end of the screwdriver like it should be, so I'm dancing around with it. There it goes. That one's going in. Okay. Now, I'm cleaning the Loctite off as we go. Sometimes I hate using it because it is so easy for it to make a damn mess. But I like to have it on there, especially when it came out of the factory with Loctite on it. So here's Loctite going back on, and I really never remember Loctite being this watery. I really don't. That's probably just my memory. I worked at a shop some years back, and we had Loctite all the time. Okay, so that's all sealed up. That's all sealed up, and the screws are using Loctite. I apologize for the video of my back. So let's take the main panel. Let's finish putting the main panel on. Okay, and don't worry, guys. You're probably all saying, "Please don't use the Loctite. We don't need a video of your back." So I'm not using the Loctite because I also have to change out this hard drive and this memory at some point in the near future. So I'm cleaning up this Loctite that I got spilled all over the place. Okay. Use a little alcohol. I kind of want you guys to see about this too, because you know you can keep a clean work surface, right? So with the alcohol, you clean up after the Loctite. I'm just using a regular household napkin. See all that Loctite you picked up? Okay. So we'll put the 4 screws back in. Yeah, this has my test hard drive in it, and I need to put a 2 terabyte drive in this. And this has 2 4 gigabyte memory sticks, and I need to put 2 8 gigabyte memory sticks in it. So it's going to be coming. This panel is going to be coming back off real soon. My hands don't stay still. Put the screws in the screw holes. So, but that's good. We got Loctite on those side panels. It really does make me feel good to have them safe and secure, as the saying goes. You can see some blue You can see some blue in around the screws, but it's probably not getting picked up on this camera. It's a fairly low-end camera. Logitech. That's a Logitech camera. Okay. Now, we got that bottom panel on. So now, the battery's back in. Let's turn this back over. Let's power it up. It's going to take a minute for the BIOS to recognize it's got a different CPU. So we'll give it a chance to figure it out. Well, that actually didn't take long at all. It usually has to think a minute about the new part that's in there. Now, we may have to power cycle this in order for it to recognize the new CPU. And it says a restart is required to finish setting up the new device. So the only new device that would be in here is the CPU. So let's restart it. Okay, let this restart. Now let's see what we have when this comes up. We'll go into the devices and we'll look at about this computer. So here it comes. Give it a few seconds. We'll give it a few seconds and let's see what we got. Here we go. Let's look at what we're running here. We'll go to settings, system, go down to about. Let's see what we have in the system. We have an i7-2630QM. So there it is. Okay, that's our i3 upgraded to an i7. Thank you very much, guys. Happy Saturday. I hope this helped out somebody. Remember, go to a chart. You got to go online. You got to look up Intel compatibility. So if you're going from a certain i3 CPU model number, you can only go to a certain i7 CPU model number. Very important, okay? I wanted to make sure I stress that before I close out. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.